to Real Talk. I am one of your two hosts, Paul Britton. Sergio Barrera, unfortunately, will not be able to join us this evening. But never fear, we're still going to do some movie reviews. That's right. That's what we're here for today is movie reviews. Is it as good without Sergio? No, it's not. Sergio's the best. I know it. You know it. We all know it. But the show must go on, and here I am to do movie reviews, and in a super timely fashion, talking about movies that came out 2 weeks ago for the most part. So aren't we all lucky? You know what? Look, I know Minions came out this past weekend. I should have gotten dressed up in my suit and gone to see the Minions movie, but I saw the last Minions movie. It was terrible. I mean, like literally terrible. Whereas the first two were actually quite good, and I just it just put me off, and I'm good. I'm good without Minions. But Elvis, on the other hand, Elvis is something that we can talk about, and so we're going to open up the show with a conversation about Elvis. A conversation with me blabbing about Elvis. This is Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. Baz Luhrmann hasn't made a movie in I don't know, it's like 57 years or something like that. It's been a long time, and here's the interesting thing about Baz Luhrmann is he has a really distinctive taste, flavor. You sit down on a Baz Luhrmann movie, and for the most part, you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, this is a Baz Luhrmann movie." You know, his last movie, 2013, The Great Gatsby, and before that was Australia, 2008. Look, every 5 years would be great, but like clearly he's not interested in making movies every 5 years. He's on his own schedule. Very different from some folks like Steven Soderbergh, who comes out with like a movie every like 8 months, basically. Baz Luhrmann, it takes a little while for him to realize his vision. And Elvis, just if you've seen any of his movies, particularly Moulin Rouge, you understand that Elvis is it's particularly, late 60s, early 70s Elvis is the audacious, gaudy monstrosity that Baz Luhrmann's entire career has been leading up to. And so we get the Elvis movie, and, it's just called Elvis. So I apologize. It's not called the Elvis movie. That would be weird to call the movie the Elvis movie. But, here we are. We have Elvis. And I gotta say, I really like Baz Luhrmann. Even the stuff that misses, Australia is a perfect example of that. It's a great example of where Baz Luhrmann's unique style, like the tone it's just off a little bit, and there's a lot of like, oh, these white people are saving everything stuff that's going on with Australia, which is problematic. That's not a problem. That there's stuff like that in Elvis also. Okay, some of the problematic stuff he doesn't address very well. Everybody understands for Elvis, he usurped, borrowed, paid homage to. However, whatever your preconceived notions were, that as far as or vision of is how Elvis came to land to be the sort of the mainstream arbiter of all things rock and roll in the beginning, his style was from African American culture in the South, and that's problematic today. Back then that was the only way it was going to be sold, and they touch on that in the movie, but there's criticism that it doesn't do enough in the movie, and I am going to second that criticism. The movie doesn't do enough to really delve into the psyche of that. But hey, that's not what the movie is, and that's also part of the problem. Is this movie's everything, and honestly, I should expect that from a Baz Luhrmann movie, is that he's going to try to be everything. And Sergio and I have had this conversation a lot about biopics and just biography, or musical biopics specifically, and biopics in general, is that the better biopics usually focus on an event and then kind of touch on other things along the way, like, have flashbacks, inciting incidents, go back for 5 minutes and then come back to the thing, like focus on like 6 months a year. And then this doesn't do that. I mean, this is the classic, like, I'm going to do everything all at once, and I'm going to be everything all at once, and I am going to show you everything that happened in Elvis's life really, really fast, and not delve into anything super deep, and just be blah. And that's what we get here, and which is fine, I guess, but it what you end up with is something that kind of feels a little superficial when you do this. And that's what you get here, is you get really a movie that feels somewhat superficial. And it's really weird, because the one event that they spend the most amount of time on is the making of his TV special, which in I want to say it was 72. But really it was they made it out, it's going to be a Christmas special, and Colonel Tom Parker, a huge fan. We're putting him to the side for now, but Colonel Tom Parker, this has got to be his Christmas special, got to be a Christmas special. I don't want to make this a Christmas special, I just want to do my thing. And he's like, it's got to be a Christmas special. No, we're going to do my thing. And the drama of, is this going to be a Christmas special or an Elvis special, is non-influential and non-impactful, and it falls flat. And so that's a big problem with this movie, is that the tension so often just falls flat. It was definitely the wrong moment to focus on. If you're going to spend a half hour on one event, make it something that feels genuine and real, and focus more on Elvis and Priscilla or something like that. This just didn't, it just didn't fall flat. It just didn't work. And that brings in Colonel Tom Parker. And the biggest problem with this movie is Colonel Tom Parker. And it's not Tom Hanks. God bless Tom Hanks, because Tom Hanks is national treasure. We love everything he does. But man, this portrayal of, look, okay, another thing that comes up a lot in this show is, if you're going to do narration, there's got to be a really good reason for it. And unfortunately, the narrator in this movie is Colonel Tom Parker. And so, first and foremost, right off the bat, why? Who cares? And I agree. Why? Who cares? I don't want to see a movie about Colonel Tom Parker. Unfortunately, that's what we get. We get a movie about Elvis and Colonel Tom Parker. And I suppose the counter would be, well, you can't really tell Elvis' story without telling Colonel Tom Parker's, but Tom Parker's story. But you can. And there is not a problem with just being like, look, the bad guy's the bad guy. Okay. What we don't want to do is take the narration or give the bad guy an opportunity to validate the bad things he was doing. And that's what happens. The narration submarines any sort of opportunity that you get to really delve into Elvis's psyche by saying, well, the reason why I did my thing is because of that. And it's like, I don't care. What? Go away. Go away, Tom Hanks. I love you. Go away. And it just, the narration sucks in this movie because of that. Don't give the bad guy an opportunity to justify his stuff. There's narration in Moulin Rouge, and it's really effective narration. It's Ewan McGregor explaining, doing the narration after Sertine has died, and it's heartfelt and it's emotional, it's impactful, it's really good narration. This is the opposite. This is it. That it's an untrustworthy narrator, and untrusty narrators are okay to an extent. What you don't want to do is let the untrusty narrator justify shit. And that's what ends up happening. So that's the bad. That's the bad stuff. The good stuff in this movie, and there is good stuff in this movie. First of all, the dude who plays Elvis, who I don't have his name. My phone went by. Hold on, let me just bring his up, because I need to mention this guy's name because he is amazing. What are you doing to me? All right. The guy who plays Elvis, Austin Butler. Holy shit, amazing. Like, I know that. Oh, it's a shame he didn't sing. Whatever. I don't care. I am a completely neutral observer on that in a musical biopic. Should the people sing or not sing, I don't care. I just don't care. Uh, just when you're not singing, let me buy into you, and I do, and it's fantastic. He is so good. And because of him, really the aspect of Elvis's career that we should be focusing on is anything pre like 1965. Because another problem, and this is just, the only thing he doesn't do well is play Fat Elvis well, because he just never looks fat, and they don't do remotely enough Fat Elvis, and I needed more Fat Elvis. Like, if you're going to do it at all, either do it and do Fat Elvis, or don't do it. And we don't need to see Fat Elvis. And I feel like with Austin Butler as Elvis, we didn't need Fat Elvis, and we didn't get Fat Elvis. And the fact that you decided to do everything and then you don't do Fat Elvis, I had a problem with that also. But that's not Austin Butler's fault. He is phenomenal. In spite of the fact that I don't like the narration from Tom Hanks, I thought like I like it when Tom Hanks plays a bad guy. I'm sorry, I'm in for it. So I didn't mind that he was playing a bad guy. I just wish that I understood what, like, I didn't know everything I needed to know. I needed to know less about Charles Park. I just needed to know that he sucked, and I got way too much. There, in true Baz Luhrmann fashion, there are some montage and set pieces that just absolutely pop on the screen, and I think this is something. If you're wondering, oh, should I go see this in the theater? Yes, you should go see this in the theater, because there are scenes in this movie that just absolutely blow up on the screen, and it's because of Baz Luhrmann. And quite honestly, I could have used more. Like, it almost felt like Baz Luhrmann was like, well, I can't go too far, in an Australian accent. I can't go too far with this being crazy, so I'm going to turn it down like 20%. And it's like, no, go up 20% and then go beyond that another 20%. Like, I could have definitely used more hugeness, bigness out of this, but I was happy to get as much bigness and hugeness as I possibly could, and there was enough, and it was good. I like those parts of it. But the reason why we could have used more is because it is impossible to understate the impact that Elvis had on culture, good or bad. And it almost feels like at times that this movie undersold that, because it felt like he was holding back at times. But look, overall, this was a movie that tried really hard, but I don't think it really ended up working all that well in the end. But it's a great cinematic experience. I'm going with 2 tacos plus guac. By the way, if you know, here, real talk, we don't do stars, we do tacos, and then if it deserves a little something extra, we put in guac. So this was a solid 2 taco movie, and then I'm giving the guac for the fantastic Elvis portrayal, as well as the just bonkers show scenes that totally work. So there you go. That's my review of Elvis. Now we're gonna move on to The Black Phone. That's right, The Black Phone also came out 2 weeks ago. Also, we're being super timely with this. And The Black Phone is starring the immortal Ethan Hawke as the grabber. He plays a kidnapper. So, look, right off the bat, huge trigger warning on this movie. I mean, if you have a problem with kids in peril, this movie's entirely about kids in peril, so you're going to want to stay away. But if you can get past kids in peril, this movie, it's a Blumhouse movie, so it's obviously a horror movie. I don't know if it's a horror-esque thriller or if it's a thriller-esque horror movie, but it's not, what you might think of when you think of Blumhouse with the Friday the 13th remakes and all the sort of things that they do. Slashers, it's not slashery, okay? It's at all. There's not there are a couple of gory scenes, but they're minimal, and that's not what this is about. This is definitely about a kid named Finney, played by Mason Thames. Phenomenal for performance from Mason Thames, and his sister, who's the kidnappee, and he has a sister, Gwen, played by Madeline McGraw, who has dreams that sometimes turn out to be real. And one of the things she's been dreaming about is about the grabber and the grabber's victims. And so, needless to say, these dreams might help save Finney in some way. And also, Finney finds in his the basement where he's being held captive a black phone, which sometimes rings, and when it does ring, he's talking to prior victims of the grabber, including one of his best friend, who was the victim just prior to him. Oh man, this is not an easy movie to get through, even if you're not like triggered by Kids in Peril. Kids in Peril is always tough, and there's some really tough things that go on here, but it's really fascinating to watch each of these kids. They have their own ideas of try this, this is what you're going to need to do to get out of here. And then watching and this is where the thriller aspects of it, watching the resolution, it's extremely satisfying. It's one of those movies that builds and builds and builds, and then has a resolution that is just like, yes, this feels really good. I see it now on the screen, and it's perfect. And this is exactly what I would like to see happen. Can we talk about Ethan Hawke for a second? I mean, come on. He's Ethan Hawke. He's amazing. In anything he does, he is one of the more thoughtful actors that we have out there. You watch an Ethan Hawke performance, and you just know that I'm getting the best of what he has at this moment, and you never feel like, okay, well, this is this is just him getting a paycheck. Even his paycheck movies, I don't know if you want to consider like stuff like the original Purge, a paycheck movie, but even stuff where it's just like, well, what's he doing in this? It's still like captivating and fascinating. He's in one of the greatest trilogies ever, the Before trilogy, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. If you haven't seen those, seek them out immediately, rent them and watch them. They're phenomenal. I just discovered them last year, and I am here to tell you, they're amazing. And Ethan Hawke is not in this movie a lot. Like, he pops in and as the bad guy, and we don't dive into the bad guy, and I think that's okay. But you get color because it's Ethan Hawke. I mean, it's he is so complete in what he is able to accomplish and what he brings to the table. And it's I mean, this movie is gripping. I can't recommend this one enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and rate this one with 4 tacos. 4 tacos for The Black Phone. I definitely think it's something that folks should check out in theaters right now. Let's do some ads here about what we're all about here at Facebook. You can find Real to Real Talk. We have a page. You might be watching us on Facebook right now. That's awesome. Thank you. We have Instagram, Real to Real Talk. We post stuff about what we're doing and shows that we have coming up and sort of fun stuff on Instagram. And hopefully you're watching us on YouTube too. Real to Real Talk YouTube. Check us out there. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to subscribe and like. You'll get notifications when we go live, and because we like you and we want you to like us. I got one more thing for you. It's a little special added treat. I got a real quick review, a movie that came to Hulu this past weekend. So this one actually is recent, called The Princess. And so the concept of this one is almost kind of sort of like a Brave live action type of thing, where there's a princess. She's a bit of a badass. She's being held captive and she needs to get the fuck out. And And I love the concept of this movie. So, to go a level deeper on that, she's being held in a tower, and she needs to get from the tower down to the dungeon or the bottom level by the time she gets down there, to save her parents. So the conceit being that she has been betrothed to this dude that's really a d-bag, and she needs to get out. She said no at the alt. She said no to him at the altar, and then he turns around and kidnaps her parents and then steals their castle. I loved the concept of this movie because what it was a really taut 90-minute. I need to get from the top of the tower to the bottom. It's going to take me 90 minutes to do it, and I have to fight people along the way. And interspersed in there, you're going to get some flashbacks. I'm in. Then the execution of the movie happened, and you realize they should have spent another month on the script, and they needed $20 million more for a decent budget, because the execution of that amazing concept it feels like it fell apart a little bit. It felt flat. There were parts of this. I loved the beginning. I was all in from the beginning, and then I just needed more. I needed to buy the princess a little more as a badass. I needed to buy that the bad guys weren't complete fucking idiots. I needed a little more, and that's where you get the budget. But unfortunately, they didn't have an extra 20 million, so they did what they could. And kudos to them. I recommend checking it out, but don't expect too much. My rating on my RQR for the princess is 2 tacos, and that's what we're gonna do. So, hey, look, folks, it's a quick one today. It's just me. I burned through some reviews. We would have definitely spoke a lot more about Elvis, but that didn't happen this time. So I'm just gonna say, remind everybody that you're important. Wait, shoot. I hear so awful. I can't remember. You're awesome. You're amazing. And the world's a better place because you are in it, everyone. We love you. Hope to see you next week when we will be doing a review of one of the big surprise international hits of the year, RRR, which is available on Netflix. So maybe check it out in advance and then hear what we have to talk about it. We'll be joined by Kristen, which I'm super excited about. And then Sergio and I will also do a little review of a little movie called Thor: Love and Thunder, maybe. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks. Have a great week.